Nathaniel Bradley. How are you? It's good to have you. Who are you? Where are you from?
So I'm from Tasmania. I've just graduated high school, and next year I'll actually be moving up to Sydney for Campion College, which will be good fun. Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah. In Tasmania, though, I work at a go-kart centre. One of the only ones there. It's good fun.
Is it a fun go-kart place, or is it more for kids?
It's proper go-karting,
Yeah.
going like 80k an hour down back straights. It's good.
It's amazing. And again, the awkward, what do you want to talk about? I don't know. How would you do it? You're not a very awkward person. I feel like you could do it much better. How would you say, what is the topic you want to discuss?
I think you're doing a fantastic job, Matt. So.
Well, I go to I've just graduated from a non-denominational schools, but it's just Protestants essentially. And so through those years, I've gained a lot of Protestant friends, and you do meet, like, there's obviously the ones who are just, like, you've got the prosperity gospel, that kind of stuff. They're not really into the real truth and actually trying to find the truth. But then you do find some who are, like, genuinely looking, and they are genuinely convinced of Protestantism. But how can we bring them into full communion with the church? Because I find it that it's always the Protestant converts into Catholicism. They're like the most hardcore, like crazy, great Catholics. I was wondering, how can we get more of them into the church?
Well, first of all, who were the fellas who told me they love Scott Hahn? Are they here? All right. So these fellas came up and they're like, do you have Scott Hahn's number? I'm like, yes, but I'm not giving it to you, you weirdo. And they were saying how much they love him. So they sent a little video. I want you to know he sent back a love heart in response to you saying that, speaking of Protestant converts, I think that, nobody likes to be a project, and we always know when someone's making us one. When the Mormon missionaries knock on your door, you know what they want. They want to fix something about you that they think is broken. And so it doesn't make for a great introduction. But I've found lately, when I talk to my Protestant brothers and sisters, that I'm just sort of a lot more transparent than I used to be. Like, I'm not trying to be all, what do you say, kind of like, I don't know the word, secretive about the fact that I want to convert them. But instead, I'm like, yes, of course I think you should become Catholic. But if you think Catholicism is false, that makes sense why you wouldn't want to be Catholic. So, like, what? So I just like having more of an open conversation. Like, I'm not trying to treat them like a project. Like, many of you might be familiar with my mate Cameron Matuzzi, who has that channel, Capturing Christianity. And it was like that with him. It's like, yes, of course, yes, of course I want you to become Catholic. And I just feel like being open about it is a lot more helpful than being secretive about it. And then a question I like to ask a Protestant who I have a relationship with is, what is the biggest obstacle to Catholicism? Because Protestants have many objections often to Catholicism, and sometimes they'll throw them all at you at once. But if you say, well, okay, yeah, fair enough, understood, but what's the biggest one? And they might say, well, I don't think that you can find real belief in the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist in the Church Fathers, or I don't think you should pray to dead people, or something like that. You go, okay, that's the biggest objection? Yes, okay. If that could be answered, what would that do for you? Well, I still have a ton of other objections. Right, but wouldn't that show you that if this could be answered, those other lesser ones you have might be able to be answered as well? I suppose so. All right. And that kind of gives you some direction about where to go, maybe to focus on that one topic. So that's something, I would say.
It's funny you say that, like, ask the one biggest thing that's wrong with them. My studies a religion teacher at school, he's a great guy. He's not the kind of guy who's just like, I'm a Protestant, don't care what Catholics teach. But when we were doing our studies of religion course, we get to look at a historical challenge within the religion, and we looked at the Reformation, which is interesting for me, being the only Catholic in the classroom, bunch of Presbyterians especially. I was very happy that the Irish fellow wasn't there. He's full on, that guy. But I asked my studies religion teacher that same question, and yeah, he said it was more a ecclesiological kind of thing, like the bishops and especially the Pope, the Bishop of Rome, and like how that can all how that all stems from Christ and how you can trace it all back. But I think what you were saying before, especially like this, getting a relationship with them, because it's a bit of a...
But not in a not in a kind of way where you're still trying to get something from them.
Yeah.
Just, you know what I mean? Like
seeing them as the person.
Yeah, where it's like with Cameron Bertuzzi, I was like, I love you. Like, I think you're really lovely and I enjoy you. And if you never became Catholic, like, I would still want to be your friend.
Yeah.
I think out of that context, that's usually the most helpful.
Yeah, St. John Paul II once said, he said, God uses human friendships to lead hearts to the source of divine charity. And so the friendship needs to be an end in itself, you know, because the purpose of friendship is the mutual perfection of the other. And so if you've got that friendship with him, I love the question Matt led in, like, what's the big thing? So the first step is actually listening. Because you might think, okay, I got to prove to him, you know, biblical evidence for the papacy out of Matthew chapter. Like, you're thinking that. And he's like, no, actually, my dad was a Catholic and an alcoholic, and he treated my mom like garbage. Okay, well, this is not just biblical evidence stuff. There's some deeper stuff going on here. Oh, I was mistreated. Or I used to be Catholic because of this and that. So our first posture needs to be actually listening. Because they say nothing is less important than the answer to a question nobody is asking. And so listen, see where he's coming from. And then you'll have a better idea of, okay, pastorally, there's some real sensitivities here. Maybe I need to apologize on behalf of the Catholic Church for the suffering that he's gone through. Maybe an apology would be much more effective to him at that moment than an apologist. And so to listen, to see where he's coming from. And then let's say you do engage in some apologetic conversations, and let's say he throws some stumpers at you. Don't give lame answers. Have the humility to say, that's a really good question. Honestly, I'm not positive how to answer it, so I don't want to give you a half-baked answer. Give me 48 hours, and I'm going to find it. Then you go get the homework. And that humility goes a long way, instead of giving him answers that don't even convince you. And so in the process, you learn so much, though.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, the best conversation I've had, like, sometimes I'll talk to teens, and they'll ask me some difficult relationship questions. You know, I give my best advice, and then I go on, and I really start thinking, what could I have said? Oh, I should have said that. This would have helped so much more. And then the next time I have a similar conversation, that's right there, ready for me to give. And so the same thing in these apologetic conversations. Listen, get stumped, and then go to places like Catholic.com. Learn the apologetics. And then you're going to be able to fall in love more with your faith. And I think as he sees that love and those sound arguments, he's more likely to, you know, want to come home to the church. So
I don't know the scripture verse because I'm not a Protestant, but there's that one line where it says something like, I planted, or Barnabas planted, I watered, God gave the growth. Something like that. And I like that idea because we can't convert anybody. Like, that's actually not within your power. You can answer questions to the best of your ability, you can love people, you can be a witness to the Catholic faith, but it's actually the Holy Spirit who converts. So that kind of takes the pressure off. Like, you can't actually do it anyway. Like, oh, gosh. All right.
Yeah, and we always want to be the one that brings the fish in the boat, so to speak. But I remember once I was driving up in the mountains in Colorado, and we passed on the road like a beef jerky stand on the side of the road. Some guy selling beef jerky out of his truck, you know, and my wife wouldn't touch that stuff in a million years. I mean, not past the health board inspection or anything, but that's the good jerky. And so I drive past one, and I'm like, oh, it looks pretty good. And then you drive past another, and I'm like, wow, that looks really good. And then you get to the third one, I'm pulling over this one. And the first two thought they played no role, but each of them brought me one lane closer to the destination. And so understand, you might be the first, you might be the last. And so if you're the last, don't think you can take all the credit. If you're the first, don't think that you're a failure. You know, you're at some point in that person's journey. So,
what advice would you offer to those who are trying to convert? What have you found helpful in?
I think you can get a lot of, like, sometimes you can get like the polemic kind of thing, like, oh, you're just a Protestant, you don't know what you're talking about, you're being stupid, you don't have 2,000 years of teaching. But they're not stupid. Like, I can find myself a lot more stupid than a lot of other Protestants a lot of the time. But it's like how you were saying, Jason, it's like there's often there's something else going on. It's not just a purely intellectual problem with it. Sometimes you've got to like dig a bit deeper, and it's like how you were saying, the relationship with them. Actually, not just saying you're a project, I just want you to become Catholic, or I just want you to be the project that I can fulfill, but saying your soul's worthy of what I have to share with you. And I think that relationship is what isn't around a lot, because we sort of get to the whole, it's like us and them, we can't mingle together like that. But like, even myself being in a Protestant school, I've had a lot more formation in a Protestant school than I have in many Catholic schools, and even from my Protestant teachers. So I think, yeah, just foster the relationship is the biggest. It's the step one, I'd say, and prayer, obviously.
Thank you very much. It's great to have you, and thanks for your advice.